Welcome to the study session where we are breaking down the BCBA 6th edition test content outline. Today we are diving into multiple control and verbal behavior.
Oh, this is one of those topics that sounds super technical but is actually happening all around us, all the time. It's in Domain E, right?
Exactly. Domain E, verbal behavior. It's about 12% of the exam, which is about 18 questions. And if you don't master multiple control, you will miss at least a few of those. It's a classic exam trap.
I love that. So give it to me straight. What is multiple control?
Multiple control is when a single verbal response, like a word or a sentence, is controlled by more than one variable at the same time. Think of it like a puppet with two strings. One string is the mand, the other is the tact. Or maybe a mand and an intraverbal.
Oh, I always tell people it's like a light switch that's wired to two different rooms. You flip it, and both lights come on. So the response water could be a mand because you're thirsty, but also a tact because you see a bottle. That's two sources of control.
Perfect analogy. And the exam loves to test two types: convergent multiple control and divergent multiple control. Convergent is when many variables control one response. Divergent is when one variable controls many different responses.
Okay, give me a convergent example. I need to lock this in.
Sure. A child says cookie. That one word could be a mand for cookie, a tact because they see a cookie, and an intraverbal because you just said, "What's your favorite snack?" So three different sources of control converge on that one response.
That's huge. And here is where the exam will try to trip you up. They'll give you a scenario and ask, what type of multiple control is this? And the answer choices will look like mand or tact alone. But the correct answer is always multiple control if there's more than one variable.
Right? And the ethical piece? If you're doing a functional analysis of verbal behavior and you miss the multiple control, you might design a bad intervention. You could reinforce a mand when the child was really tacting. That's a problem ethically because you're not honoring the function of their behavior.
Exactly. Let's get clinical. A client says, "I want juice," while looking at the fridge. That's a mand and a tact together. So your intervention has to account for both. If you only treat it as a mand, you might miss teaching them to tact when they're not motivated. And that's not ethical. You're not serving the client's best interest.
And that's where reinforcement comes in. You want to reinforce the response under the correct controlling variable. If it's a pure mand, give the juice. If it's a pure tact, give praise or a token. But when it's multiple control, you have to be careful to reinforce the right function.
Honestly, the exam will also test you on divergent control. That's when one stimulus evokes many different responses. Like seeing a dog, you could say dog, puppy, woof, pet, run. One stimulus, many responses.
Right? And that's important for teaching intraverbals. You want a client to have a rich verbal repertoire. If they can only say one thing about a dog, that's weak divergent control. Ethically, we want to build robust communication skills.
Okay, give me a mnemonic. Convergent, many arrows into one target. Divergent, one arrow splits into many.
I love that. And remember, the task list specifically mentions multiple control under E6. So if you see a question about controlling variables for a verbal response, think multiple control.
And don't forget verbal behavior as a whole. Skinner's analysis is all about function. Multiple control is the rule, not the exception. Every time you speak, there are usually at least two variables at play. And ethically, we have to assess all of them.
Exactly. So when you're studying, practice identifying the mand, tact, intraverbal, and echoic in a single response. That's the skill the exam wants. And always consider the ethical obligation to accurately identify function before intervening.
And if you get a question that says, "What type of control is this?" and you see two or more sources, the answer is almost always multiple control. Don't overthink it. But do think about the ethics of your intervention.
For more practice questions, visit www.bcbmaexam.com.
See ya.
Bye.